Hey there, Podcast Aquanauts. It's your host, Casey here. Look, I'm not going to mess around too much with the preamble to this episode. At the end of last year, the aquarium bid a fond farewell and wave of well wishes to our outgoing president and CEO, Keith Sanford, who retired after 8 years of steering the good ship Tennessee Aquarium, including through the exceptionally trying times of the global pandemic. In this episode, I brought in the aquarium's new president and CEO, Andy Wood, to talk about, well, a lot of things. This discussion covers a lot of ground, from his philosophy about leadership and why he felt drawn to work here, to his favorite exhibits and what it means to grow up in an aquarium family, whether your dad's the CEO or you're a member. Andy is a very inspiring speaker, and there's no sense in further delaying his introduction with this one, so let's get right to it, shall we? On with the podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Podcast Aquatic, the official podcast of the Tennessee Aquarium. Today, I have a very special guest in the studio dive cage, Andy Wood. Andy, you are our new president and CEO. Thank you so much for joining us.
Casey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you started last week. So how are you settling in?
I started last week. It's been a wonderful opportunity to settle in. The teams have been amazing. This is an extremely welcoming organization doing amazing work. So everyone has been very kind and has shown me where the restrooms are and how to get around the facility. And it's just been a wonderful introduction to work here at the Tennessee Aquarium.
And no one showed you where the studio dive cage was. We're kind of hidden.
No, I did have to have you meet me out front this morning, but I appreciate the guidance.
It's a secret to everyone. All right. So let's start with something a little bit lighter. We use this in our interview process, and I don't know if this was asked of you in the course of the many rounds of interviews you went through, but if you had to say there was an animal that best described you or matched your personality, what would that be?
I would probably say that it's a sea turtle. And I'm not saying that because for those that listen and know my penchant for sea turtles, it really is because what I love about a sea turtle is they're hatched on a beach, they find their way back into the ocean and they go explore, and they know and can find their way back to that beach they were born. I have an anchor back to my family that is the group that keeps me grounded. And I enjoy that anchor, but I love going out and exploring what the world has to offer and where I can contribute. And so I think a sea turtle probably best represents the journey I like to take. I'm hoping that, maybe I can live, 150 years. I don't think it's possible, but I truly feel connected to a sea turtle in that way.
Have you had a chance to meet either of our green sea turtles?
I have not yet. I have been around the campus, but not really getting up close. Yes, obviously I've seen the same that our guests can enjoy, and they are amazing creatures.
Okay, well they are they're beautiful animals, and both of them are great stories just because they happen to be rescues, as a lot of sea turtles you see in zoos and aquariums tend to be. And I'm sure that at some point we'll probably do a deep dive into our green sea turtles and some of their kind of stories of care here at the aquarium. I was going to ask you this: are you a diver? Because a lot of our staff members are divers.
I am not. I wanted to be a diver when I was 17 years old and could not actually put together the money at that time to be able to get certified. Getting certified in New Jersey is a tougher opportunity than it was in Florida. I had hoped to try to get it accomplished a few years ago in Florida and just never got there. So I am an aspirational diver. I really want to get that PADI certification so that I can get out and explore more of this beautiful planet.
Well, our dive safety officer here at the aquarium has been really good about getting staff members trained up, so maybe he can just add you to one of his morning classes.
Excellent. So now you'll find me scrubbing some of the systems, and I would love that tremendously.
Sure. All right, so talk a little bit about your background in zoos and aquariums. You're coming to us from the Florida Aquarium, where you worked for a little over 7 years, and before that you were at Mystic Aquarium for about the same amount of time. So what did those experiences teach you about the demands and expectations of leadership roles in zoos and aquariums?
Oh, there's a lot there. Yeah, the last 7 years, I'd been the chief operating officer at the Florida Aquarium. Having the opportunity to work with all of the disciplines across the organization, I really learned there, and the biggest lesson I gained in that process was understanding how you have to keep the energy going for every group within the organization from a leadership perspective, being able to provide strategic vision and direction and share that. I worked very closely with the CEO, Roger German, who a great leader who taught me a lot. And really, as we would work together and as he would set some of the vision for the organization, my responsibility was to help translate that across disciplines, across departments, so that we were all rowing in the same direction. And you learn that you have to be able to listen a lot. You have to listen way more than you speak. You have to learn how to engage different personalities and leaders across the organization and get them motivated and keep them motivated. And sometimes you have to do that in the toughest of times. I was the chief operating officer during COVID for the Florida Aquarium, and we had to close to the public.
It's a tough time.
It is a very tough time, and you learn some great leadership lessons in that. You learn how you can rally together. You learn how people will band together to keep the mission moving forward. And that was the most important piece for my personal experience in COVID, was how we all kept the mission front and center, and we did everything we could to make sure we got back on our feet and we got back to serving the mission as best as we possibly could. Speaking of the mission, I learned tremendously with a group of individuals who are passionate about what they can achieve in conservation. If you give them the tools and the resources and let them see a greater vision than they even thought possible, they can do amazing things. During my tenure at the Florida Aquarium, we went from about 3,000 square feet in coral propagation space, doing coral restoration in the Florida Reef Tract. And under my tenure, we were able to grow that to about 8,000 square feet, more than doubling the program.
Wow.
And it's really because a passionate group of individuals felt that they could do it, and my responsibility was to figure out how to build them the spaces. And we went and secured funding and laid out the plans and built amazing spaces. Those were two great lessons that I learned at the Florida Aquarium. Prior to that, I had, to your point, a little over 7 years of experience working with and for Mystic Aquarium. And when I joined that organization, I came from a marketing background. And so my technical discipline coming in was marketing, but my goal in joining the organization was to expand well beyond that. And so I had the opportunity to work with guest experience, to work with exhibit development, to work with membership. At times I managed the development department for a short period of time. I had developed I'd worked over managing our food service operation, worked with our retail partners.
Wow.
I worked in government relations and had the opportunity to really represent the institution well at the federal level. And it was really an eye-opening experience for me of what it takes to keep a mission-driven organization moving forward. That's really the lesson I learned there. And I learned there's a great story that I'll share here that I haven't shared with anyone yet here, but I learned that an aquarium is much bigger than the attraction, much bigger than even the conservation programs. When I joined the organization as a full-time employee, it was 2012. And up in the Northeast, in October of 2012, Superstorm Sandy came across and really had a devastating effect, much to some of the effect we've seen recently in North Carolina, here in Tennessee and elsewhere, and really the flooding that really dramatically affected communities. Well, in the community in which I was living at the time and the aquarium is located, we were significantly without power, and it happened days before Halloween. And I learned in that situation that, again, when you have a team of dedicated individuals who really want to focus on a mission, they can accomplish anything if you just give them the vision of where we can achieve something. And so for when Superstorm Sandy came through, we lost power, and most communities without power, and most of the communities around Mystic were canceling trick-or-treating for Halloween. And at the aquarium, we had generators that ran the facility, so we were up and running. And what we decided, and we came up with this idea that we could host trick-or-treating for Halloween, and we felt it was just how we could serve our community. And we weren't going to charge admission. We were just going to pull together trick-or-treating. And it was an idea that was concepted 2 nights before Halloween, and we had like 36 hours to pull it off. And I remember working with the marketing team and the animal care team and the guest experience team to really work across the organization. and we filled an entire minivan with candy. We would run to stores to buy candy, and people would hear what we were doing and would donate. They'd buy bags of candy and give them to us. So we gave out over 85,000 pieces of candy to over 8,000 people who came to trick or treat.
Wow.
And my favorite experience of that was the headline in the newspaper afterwards was "The Aquarium Saves Halloween." That taught me that institutions like ours have a dedicated purpose and have a dedicated role, but we are a part of a community, and we have an obligation and an opportunity to serve our community whenever it strikes. And I learned a great lesson in that experience. So Mystic really taught me that leadership was bigger than just a technical discipline. It was about organizing an operation, a group of individuals to focus on tasks at hand that could really advance the mission. So I enjoyed that tremendously.
Do you find that in zoos and aquariums, at least in my experience, the people who work here tend to sort of buy into the mission? I mean, within the nonprofit sphere, I feel like that's pretty typical, that you're in it because you believe in whatever it is the organization that you're doing represents. Do you feel like that makes moments like that more achievable because there is sort of an automatic base level buy-in on the part of the people who tend to work at zoos and aquariums?
I'll take it a little differently. I think people who work at zoos and aquariums buy into the power of our mission. Not just buy into the mission, they understand that if we do everything well and if we do it to the best of our abilities, the impact is far greater than we can ever imagine. It's that, for lack of a better word, hope and promise that we can make change, and we can make change happen, whether that's in restoration of an ecosystem or whether that's propagation of a species so that we can actually return them to their environment, or whether that's laughter that we can create through a fun experience on our campus, or whether that's the awe and wow in opening eyes to an environment that they never thought was imaginable. River Giants does that for me. That habitat, when you see the size of those animals and you start to go, oh, that's a massive fish. To know that exists is not something you would get to see in your backyard. It's not something you would get to see in your neighborhood. And when we open those eyes and catch that, that's the impact of our mission. When we teach someone in a classroom in 5th grade something new that they never thought of before about an ecosystem or a species, or quite honestly, fresh water. What's amazing is to understand the freshwater habitats and the focus on that, to be able to even open eyes to what the streams really have the opportunity to provide for us. That's the impact. And when we see that impact, I think everybody buys into that the impact of our mission is dramatic.
Okay, so Andy, you are a family man. You already talked about this earlier, but in the staff meeting last week, you kind of talked about your 3 kids. I have 3 kids of my own, and I'm sure a lot of the people who are listening to this show have children. So, what is it about growing up in a zoo or aquarium that makes a childhood special? Whether that's having the benefit of the access that we have as employees with our kids, or just being a member family. What is it about having that ready access and repeated access to zoos and aquariums that makes childhood special?
I think what makes childhood so special is a connection to something that you never thought you could have before. Zoos and aquariums provide these unique experiences to connect with nature in a way you just can't. Especially when I think of my children who now at this point I could probably say have grown up in aquariums. My oldest is 22 and I've been working with aquariums for 15 years. So I'll give her the benefit of, that she grew up in aquariums. The visit and seeing something new, seeing and learning a species that they never thought of before or thought was a connection they could make was truly exciting to watch in their eyes. That's what zoos and aquariums provide for the communities we serve. And those communities are the local communities as well as those who visit from all over. They want to come explore those great experiences. And so when you walk through Cove Forest at the Tennessee Aquarium and you get to feel the immersive nature of being in the mountains and see a stream rising and dropping and how the fish are interacting with that, you don't get to see that when you walk along that stream. You don't get to see that experience of how the fish are experiencing that. We bring that to life. And so I think having that connection opens eyes to what an amazing world we live in and the what's hidden just beneath the surface. I told a story previously of, when I was a child, I would not say to you that I was a nature child. I would not say that I spent a lot of time in nature, but some of my greatest memories are my dad used to take us, my older brother and I, on canoeathons. They were fundraisers that he would do for Special Olympics through his work, that we would get to go canoeing. And it was the longest canoeing trip ever. It was probably about 8 miles, but man, it felt like it was 400. But I remember oftentimes thinking, as I sat in the middle of the boat, not paddling, my brother sat up front, he's older, he paddled, and my dad in the back, what was below the surface? And you try to catch that glimpse. Aquariums bring that to life. They bring to life a glimpse underneath of that, even though I was canoeing on top of it. The other part was I always have journeyed to the beach, the shore in New Jersey, and it's been a pilgrimage for me and my family since I was born. And I really enjoyed that. And I love staring out at that ocean, but I always sat and wonder. To this day, I sit and wonder of what's just below the surface. I would love it when dolphins would come by and you'd watch them break the surface and you understand that there are dolphins there. But I always wondered, what are they feeding on? Where are the crabs? How many sharks are out there? And that's, we all have that wonder inside of us, no matter where we grow up. And I think zoos and aquariums capture that sense of wonder and give you a glimpse into what that world looks like. And we do it to inspire you to want to care for that space.
It's funny that, and I agree with you. I think that water, it's funny, for being as translucent as it is, it really hides a lot, which is, it seems counterintuitive that it would be that way, but you're absolutely right. And one of my favorite things about the Cove Forest is my favorite exhibit and has been since I walked through when I was 7 years old back in 92 when we opened. And I think one of the best follow-ups to that, and the nice thing about it being the next gallery you experience, is our Ridges to Rivers gallery, which is open 2023. We've talked about it at length in the show before, but when we were designing that whole gallery, the conceit of it, the idea behind it was, this is your opportunity to basically stick your face beneath the surface without getting wet and have that experience that we are so privileged to have when we go out in the wild with our scientists and sometimes with school groups and get, wear scuba masks or snorkeling goggles and go and break that surface, and the whole world opens up when you do that. And so I think it's a great point that you made, that getting to come here gives you that portal to a world that you probably drive across those streams every single day and have no idea that the biodiversity of that stream could rival some entire states.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you look here in the Southeast, in particular in Tennessee, the biodiversity is some of the greatest in the world. And we just opened a freshwater mussels habitat on Friday. And, we're telling the story of freshwater mussels here in Tennessee. How many people actually thought that there were mussels in Tennessee? You see them on some restaurant menus, and they're definitely not the ones coming from Tennessee, but you don't think of the diversity and the biodiversity that exists just below the surface, right? We get caught in seeing the ripples on the surface and the way that reflection works. It makes it hard to get that peek in. And, you asked me that scuba diving question earlier. A very small percentage of people becomes scuba certified. Very small. So those are the few who get to go out and see, even in the ocean world, some of the reefs and those environments. So our opportunity is to find those stories that are really compelling and bring you, whether it be beauty or interest or the way life manages in spaces, and tell those stories so that you as a guest can truly get the experience of a connection in nature that you wouldn't get otherwise.
So I want to back things up for just a second.
Sure.
So when the position for CEO first opened up, and I'm not sure when that was, I'm assuming it was probably last year at some point. What was it that piqued your interest? Why us? I think you said last week that there were only a few places that you were considering going to. So what is it about the Tennessee Aquarium that piqued your interest?
Well, the Tennessee Aquarium piqued my interest years ago, well before a job opening. The Tennessee Aquarium is an internationally recognized leader in both guest experience, the experiences and those connections to nature that we create, in conservation and the work that we do. So I've always had my eyes on the Tennessee Aquarium, looking up to the Tennessee Aquarium as in an aspirational way of how organizations can do it really well. So when the job opened up and the job description came out, I'd worked long and hard in my career to set myself up for a situation where I could step into a role where I can help lead an organization and guide a team and focus an organization on its next great chapter. And that I jumped at that chance. And you're right. I did say in some staff interactions last week that there are only a handful of institutions that I ever wanted to go work for. And the Tennessee Aquarium was the top of that list. I'd had some amazing experiences both at Mystic Aquarium, at the Florida Aquarium, and those are phenomenal organizations that I'm proud to be an alumni of. But the Tennessee Aquarium was probably the top of my list. It has so many individuals dedicated to serving the purpose, our shared purpose. It has so many great experiences, both in river journey and in ocean journey. It has a world-renowned conservation program that is specifically focused on freshwater conservation, extremely unique. All of those were really the stage setting for once I got to know the people. And the biggest thing I would say is the people that make up the Tennessee Aquarium, staff and volunteers, board members, community leaders that support us, is amazing. It is unparalleled in anywhere I have been before.
And of course, podcasters.
I apologize, Casey. You're right. Well, that's a wonderful piece of the puzzle but the storytelling, you do make a great point. The storytelling that the Tennessee Aquarium has done has a lot of individuals watching the organization with awe for what we're doing to deliver on our purpose every day. And you see it around every corner. So it has been infectious for me. And once I had the opportunity to get into the process, I knew that if I could be a part of this team, I wanted to be a part of this team as much as I possibly could.
So you mentioned Florida and Mystic. So for people who aren't familiar, Mystic is located where? Mystic
is in southeastern Connecticut, right near the Rhode Island border.
Okay, so on the coast?
It is on the coast, yes.
Okay, so you've worked at 2 coastal aquariums.
Yeah.
How do you think things are going to be different now that you're inland? You're landlocked now.
Well, I wouldn't say we're landlocked. The amazing Tennessee River is right here.
Excellent point.
So I think the location related to what we tend to orient ourselves, which is the ocean, makes no difference for me. I think that the opportunity to connect to nature surrounds this community in such a tremendous way. I had the opportunity this weekend to go on my first hike here in Chattanooga.
Oh, where'd you go?
I went out and made the hike to Rainbow Falls.
Okay.
And that's
a good one.
It was a great one. I probably should have started a little slower, but I took the opportunity and the challenge, and I accomplished it. I showed up today. And it's really that connection to nature in all ways. There's the streams, the rivers, they all lead to one ocean. And so, yes, being in 2 coastal communities, the connection to water is important to me. I love the fact that the Tennessee Aquarium sits right on the Tennessee River, and even the Tennessee sits on the river and is connected to those freshwater bodies of water that are really just amazing.
Yeah, Fabien Cousteau, Jacques Cousteau's grandson, we have worked with him a few times in the past, and one of his quotes that really resonates with me and with us as an institution, because we bring it out fairly often, is that rivers are the roots of our ocean, which is a good reminder that, as our scientist-in-chief, Dr. Anna George, who's been on this show many times at this point, likes to point out, we all live downstream. So everybody is downstream from somebody else, I guess, unless you're living in a spring popping out of the mountain. So
Well, if you look at the water cycle, it's the biggest thing that truly connects us all, is that water in the water cycle is flowing through in every aspect, whether that's the rains that we all feel but that's what's fueling and filling those streams and those rivers, and as they flow down and create their connection to the ocean, it's that cycle that truly connects us globally. It's amazing. And so our opportunity to find our little piece of the world that we want to try to protect and engage others to understand and desire to protect it as well, we are all connected in that way.
So one of the things about the aquarium that has been a defining focus for us, you mentioned storytelling. I remember visiting the aquarium when I was 7 and being told, as you're riding the escalator on River Journey, at that point, River Journey was it was the aquarium. There was no Ocean Journey. That didn't come until about 13 years later. But you're told as you're riding the escalator that you are water vapor, and you're going up into the clouds, and you're going to become a raindrop. And that raindrop is going to fall on the cove forest, and it's going to wind its way. And as it follows its way all the way down to the ocean, you're following it through all the habitats that it touches. And I remember that at 7 years old, thinking that it was incredible that I knew that TV shows could tell a story. I knew that movies could tell a story, and books obviously could tell stories. I had no idea that a building could tell a story. And that's something that's really stuck with me as someone who's been a storyteller myself for about 20 years at this point, that you can tell stories basically anywhere. And I'm wondering, as you experienced the building, as you walked through, because you've toured at this point, probably several times at this point, what are the high points of that story as you're following that water droplet, because that's still our story, down from the mountains to the sea? What are the high points to you? What moments do you use in your elevator pitch for the aquarium to explain, here's what you're going to see and here's what's going to wow you?
Well, I think that's a wonderful question. And I think the idea of following a drop of water is large and yet so small. And so when you want to talk highlights, you're going to see it all. To me, it's the nooks and crannies. It's where you don't expect to find the next hidden gem that is the most powerful. I referenced that we opened the new mussel habitat on Friday, and it's a wonderful habitat that is artfully done. And that's what a lot of folks don't understand to some degree of how we do what we do, which is there is an artistry. There is a significant scientific and animal well-being focus on how we create experiences for our guests to build those connections. But there's an artistry to it. The way we may shape rocks, the way we may use live plantings. And I think when you find those little hidden gems, you don't expect that drop of water journey to take you to freshwater mussels or to pipefish, or to tell you a story of how a different species exists in an environment that may be from another part of our world, but is a turtle that's connected to how our turtles are living here in the Tennessee Valley. It's that drop of water and watching that flow when you get through the bayous, and when you start to understand even the bird connections to that, and you start to see how all these species are connected to water, and then so are we, right? It's some of the biggest discussions we have is about water management and all over this country. And so to be able to see that drop of water, find those little hidden places, I encourage every guest. So when I talk about, you're going to see the highlights of, and they're going to be front and center, whether that be Cove Forest or whether that be flooded Amazon, and you're going to see these amazing stories. But at the same time, find those little hidden places where a drop of water finds itself, because that's what it's designed to do, is take you to learn something you never thought possible, and never thought connected to this natural cycle and this natural environment. And I think that that's a really cool experience within the way the River Journey story works. And it is truly a building telling a story. And that shouldn't be overlooked. We're taking you on a journey that is connecting you to these environments in a very purposeful way, and enjoy every step of it.
So you mentioned the tiny things that you can encounter, the little wows. So I'm just going to plug something real quick, because in addition to doing this show, I also produce a lot of our video content at the aquarium. And one of my favorite projects that I've ever done or undertaken last year was bringing all of our staff members from all different departments on camera to share what their favorite tiny wow was. So those of us who work here, we get to walk the buildings more than anybody else. And so we understand and know these exhibits in a way that even members maybe don't necessarily get a chance to see them the way that we do. And I loved getting a chance to have people from our housekeeping department, people from our members of our security team, people from the maintenance department, having them share the things that were special to them, and then seeing how those moments resonated with lots of other people, including members or people who'd never even been before. And it really showed me, seeing those things through their eyes, it gave me a different appreciation for it. Even I've worked here at this point for almost 9 years, and I thought that I knew, for instance, our Secret Reef exhibit, 618,000 gallons. It's enormous, but even that place, I feel like I'd seen it all. But somehow there were several of those tiny wows that people mentioned, different aspects of that exhibit that were special to them that I'd never even stopped to consider. So that was a really special. I'll try and include a link to that playlist in the show notes. But that was a great example of, I think, what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's those hidden spaces. And here's the best part of connecting with the Tennessee Aquarium. Every day is different. Just like out in the natural environment, that water flows a little differently every single day, and the animals act differently every single day. It's the changing, and you see behaviors and experiences that you may not have seen if you showed up the same time the day prior. And that's life. We're surrounded by life, and being able to connect people to that through the story of a drop of water is just so cool, because you can see all the little places it flows.
So Andy, you have moved up here from Florida. What are you most excited about living here in Tennessee? What's got your interest peaked? You mentioned hiking. Was that a big appeal for you? And just in general, what are you most looking forward to about living in this part of the country?
It is absolutely an appeal for me. I grew up in the Northeast, so I grew up in New Jersey, which isn't necessarily the most rich environment from a natural perspective. There are hidden spots within New Jersey where you can explore and enjoy. But I grew up really feeling a connection to nature. And so living in southeastern Connecticut, when I worked at Mystic Aquarium, it's a rural environment. We got to live right across from a state forest and really explore. And so, yes, hiking was a piece of what has always appealed to me, and those connections. So I think that the natural beauty, Scenic City is the right moniker for Chattanooga. It's absolutely gorgeous, but being able to see that, I had the opportunity to see a bald eagle the other day. I haven't seen a bald eagle in its natural environment in a long time. I've definitely seen a lot of pelicans, but not a bald eagle. And I'm still awed by that. I'm still amazed to see that, bird and that predator playing its role in the ecosystem, and being able just to watch that in awe is exciting to me. So the natural beauty is absolutely a draw. I will tell you that I have been wildly impressed with the food scene here in Chattanooga as well. So
it's pretty good.
It is really good, and it's great to see it growing and evolving. It shows you, the health of the community, that the community is really growing. And from a business person's perspective, and having grown up in the business community, it's amazing to see the business growth here in Chattanooga, and the businesses that are thriving here and that have been here for a long time and are really contributing. That's exciting to me. So the life itself here in Chattanooga was a great appeal. Don't get me wrong, Tampa has been a booming city for the last 5, 6, 7 years and really seen a lot of growth, but it's not been as dynamic and integrated in from my perspective as I've seen already here in Chattanooga. So I am drawn by the community that is connected and delivering on its purpose and promise. I am drawn by this natural beauty that we are surrounded by, and really, excited that my family's going to enjoy the food scene. For that, I'm sure they've already had a couple of experiences. There is one specific ice cream shop that my son has spent about 3 nights in Chattanooga since we accepted the position, and he's eaten 4 times at the ice cream place. So there are definitely some spots that are really connecting with my family too.
You've mentioned community a lot in the course of this conversation, and if you know the history of the aquarium, are you familiar with the history of Chattanooga and the role that the aquarium played?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
So for those of you who are listening who maybe aren't from this part of the country or don't know this, a lot of the growth that you're talking about, Andy, in downtown can sort of be laid at the feet of the aquarium. So the building of the aquarium back in '92 sparked a civic renaissance in Chattanooga. It really was a transforming of the fortunes of the community from what Walter Cronkite famously described as the dirtiest city in America back in the late 60s to the things that you're talking about now that people know us for, that scenic beauty. That's a real changing of fortunes, and a lot of that has happened in lockstep with the aquarium. Since you're aware of it, is that something that you are thinking about as you take on this leadership and the important role that the aquarium and the community walking hand in hand has played historically and maybe looking to the future?
Absolutely. I think when you look at it, aquariums historically throughout the U.S. in particular have all played a multifunction role. And when you talk about a modern aquarium and where modern aquariums are going, you have to honor the economic development component that exists. I think the aquarium is emblematic of a community coming together and saying, we need a place to gather. We need a place that connects us to this beauty around us that really can also spur drawing people into a downtown, getting them to stay here, getting them to shop, getting them to eat, getting them to explore. And I think the aquarium plays a very important role in that. The same role it played back in 1992 when it opened. It really plays a role of fueling that community, and that's a role we can play in the community. So community development is a key part of who we are. Then you take that to the learning level and you take education, informal education being our specialty. When you take that into the equation, you have classroom learning that's focused on learning key principles, and the aquarium plays a role in its work that it does day in and day out, whether that be chemistry, whether that be facility management and plumbing and technical skills and trades, to the science-driven conservation research components. All of those are tools we use to connect students to real-life examples that are right here in this community and what we do. And then you amplify it to the actual work where we can preserve the beauty around us and we can help try to conserve. I think the Laurel Dace story is an amazing component of that. The Laurel Dace being a species of minnow that is found only in 2 streams up on the Cumberland Plateau. Drought should have wiped that species out last year, and our scientists' ability to go out and to collect that species and bring it into our systems and our care, be able to care for it for a period of time, and then we just took those animals back and put them back in the streams. That's our ability to serve our community the same way our community is serving us, to make sure that they can build those connections to nature, come and visit, come explore, come connect with us. So yeah, it's a key part of what's top of mind for me and honestly, I'll go back to that question you asked of what compelled me. When you see a community connected to an organization like ours, the way Chattanooga is connected, that's energizing for someone like me. We're going to do this together. Whatever it is, we're going to do it together. We are one. We are an asset for the Chattanooga community, and the Chattanooga community is an asset for us. We're intertwined and connected in how we shape what's next for us. And so, I think it's front and center for me. Understanding that story is critically important because it's a part of our future as well.
I mentioned earlier, I characterized the people who work at zoos and aquariums as having a lot of buy-in. I think actually Chattanooga as a whole, you could describe the community as having a lot of buy-in. I mean, the reason we exist is because the public came together and made, honestly, a kind of a crazy dream a reality. I mean, no one, if you look at coverage back in the day of the announcement that they were considering building an aquarium focused on fresh water, not sharks and jellyfish and sea turtles like you mentioned liking so much, but little fish that were in the backyard, in their backyards and the streams that they crossed over every day, people thought it was crazy. But they came together and they did it. I mean, this community rallied behind this notion, this dream, and brought it to reality. And that to me signifies a lot of buy-in that has been true of us as an institution for the last 32 years.
And I think the rewards continue to show how powerful that was from the beginning, to do it better than anyone else. Newsweek just ranked the Tennessee Aquarium the number 2 aquarium in the country for guest experience, based on, so that shows you that when you look at the experience here at the Tennessee Aquarium, the innovation that was put in a long time ago today is still delivering on an experience that is unique and interesting. You mentioned the freshwater side of it. I think it's one of the most unique opportunities you have, and the reason you should visit the Tennessee Aquarium is that connection of freshwater you can't find at the scale that it is created here, as well as at the depth with which we want to immerse you in why those species are so interesting, whether that's brook trout, whether that's the darter, whatever it is, we will connect you to those species that may not be front and center. As you mentioned, everyone wants to know where the big sharks are. Everyone wants to know where the penguins are. And we all have them, and you can get that experience here at the Tennessee Aquarium as well. But I think our opportunity to really own that story is what keeps us top of the list for many. That shows the dedication and commitment of the group that originally came together and said, we can do this. And this community rallying behind that is what keeps fueling us to want to do more and more and more.
So as CEO, you have your hand on the tiller. There's a lot of things that you can change. As the top man in it, I mean, I guess we have a board, but I mean, you have a lot of sway to determine the path that we take into the future. And I'm actually interested in knowing, not before we talk about what you maybe see as the direction we could be headed, but what are you most interested in preserving about us? What elements are you fixated on defending and safeguarding so that they're true into the future?
I'll answer that in a way that may be different than the question you wanted to ask.
Sure, go ahead.
Because your setup is great, and I agree that that's the perception. But I think the reality of being CEO of an organization like the Tennessee Aquarium is that the opportunity that sits is to really rally a team to see potential that they may not see and to focus on how we capitalize on that potential. So I can't sit here today and say, I think this is what should be preserved technically, or this is what, we want to change. I think change is natural. And I mean, our exhibits change all the time.
Sure.
I think a change is constant. It doesn't mean I'm here to change. It means I'm here to understand what this organization believes in itself and to challenge what's possible and see where every member of this organization and every member of this community wants us to go. And my job as CEO is to make sure that we continue to be focused on all aspects of what will make us successful, and that we listen to every one of those voices and organize a plan that helps us go accomplish something we may not even believe is possible today. That's truly what I believe. My responsibility is to listen to the organization, listen to the community, and help lay out a plan that's going to take us even further than we've already come. And it's exciting to think about that. And, my responsibility is just to make sure that everybody keeps listening, keeps engaging, and that we go accomplish. Yes. Does that mean that changes are going to come? Absolutely, because change is natural. I don't know what those will be. Does it mean that new great opportunities we're going to explore? Absolutely. We don't even know what they are yet today. Are we going to preserve key components? Absolutely. What those key components are, we're going to spend a lot of time talking together, engaging with our community, and really understanding what's possible. And if we do that well, then we will continue in another 33, 35 years to continue to receive accolades for serving our mission and our purpose at the best possible level.
Sitting on the other side of, in the audience, I guess, as you gave your speeches or you did your presentations last week to staff, you seemed very aspirational, but also inspirational, and those two things seem really defining qualities for you as a leader. Is that fair to say? Like what you just said seems very aspirational, but I feel inspired sitting here 2 feet away from you in the studio dive cage.
Well, I appreciate that. Yes, I think that those are key pieces, and I think what sits behind that is the ability to put together the right business plans, the ability to put together the right marketing plans, the ability to put together the right exhibitry plans, the ability to put together the right conservation plan. That's where everybody and all of our leaders across the organization start to put the pieces together that show we can achieve whatever we want to achieve. I truly believe that every day we can achieve whatever we want to achieve if we work together, if we continue to inspire each other. I appreciate the point on inspiration. I will tell you, I am inspired every day by the people who are focused and committed to whatever task they have in front of them. The conversations I have in the pathway, the conversations I have in the hallway, continuing to meet people within the community who say such great things about us. I had the opportunity last week to go to Nashville and spend time with our state legislators and hear the feedback there of how they view the institution and what we've accomplished. All of that is inspirational to say to me that if that's where we are now, imagine where we can go. So yes, I'm a big believer in thinking big, dreaming big. I said that last week.
You did.
Dream big. And we will put the pieces together, and I'm confident that the leadership group will be able to organize ourselves so that we can work our hardest to achieve whatever it is that we all want to do together. I do believe that, and I believe that I'm a big fan of servant leadership. And I believe that my responsibility is to serve the organization, to make sure that we're doing our best, to make sure that we're challenging ourselves, to make sure that we are pushing further than we think is possible. It doesn't mean we're going to be able to accomplish every dream we have, but if we keep shooting for those dreams and targeting those dreams, then we're going to do better than we think we can. And I believe that every single day. I've been inspired by that my entire career, and I've watched, I've learned from some amazing leaders who have told me to push beyond what I think is possible. And I think that we will be able to do that. So yes, aspiration and inspiration are 2 key pieces of the recipe.
Yeah, when I walked out of your welcome breakfast last maybe Wednesday, I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. Let's go. Let's do the thing.
Good. Now it takes to set the vision on the wall and have everybody go, we can go do that. And so those who walk out inspired and continue to feel like we can do what we want to do, now the opportunity is for those individuals to find the role that they play and define that role and push themselves. And I think that, I said it in that speech I gave on Wednesday as well, that no matter what, we need to have fun while we're doing it.
So as you look down the road, you're 1 week in. Where do you want us to be, or where do you want to be in, say, 5 years?
Where do I want to be in 5 years? I think the better way to frame that is I think in 5 years the organization will be well into its path for the next great chapter of this organization. We will have developed the plan. We will have vetted the plan. We will have brought everybody on board with the plan, and we will be executing the plan. I can't tell you what that plan is, but we'll be there. In 5 years, we'll be well into where we're going and what is next. I think what's really important is, and the power of coming from a different institution in a different state, is accepting how well regarded this institution already is, and where it has carved a path in the zoo and aquarium community already. The ability to take that to the next level is right at our fingertips. And so I think being able to lay that plan together and move the organization forward in that direction, we'll be well on that path within 5 years. We'll be moving and shaking into whatever is next. And I think that that's going to be exciting times for this institution. And I believe, from what I've seen, we'll be doing that as this community is also continuing to be aspirational and develop in new and exciting ways. I mean, there's so many things happening in the next several years here in Chattanooga that I'm already aware of. The new development, there's a new stadium being built. That energy, we will feed off of that energy as well and make sure that the Tennessee Aquarium is pushing itself forward into its next great chapter.
Awesome. Now, we are running up against what I think I told you the time would be for this episode. And I have a problem with being wordy, so it's probably my fault. But as we close this out, what do you want people to know about you as we end this episode? What do you want people's takeaway to be about who Andy Wood is and what you hope to accomplish here?
I think the biggest thing that I want to know is that I want everyone to know is that I'm just a part of a team. That while I may have a title and I may have a role, I have a role that I play on this team, but it's a team sport. And that together as a team, we are going to do great things. And when I say team, that is not just our staff and volunteers, but it's the community coming along with us and encouraging us and challenging us and pushing us to think bigger or to think differently. And so I'm just a part of that team. So I want everybody to know that I'm here as a leader helping shape where we're going. But I am approachable. I am excited to build relationships within this community. I am excited to settle my family here and for them to really become welcomed and comfortable in this community, which they already have felt. And I'm excited for that. And I think that being a team leader means that we're going to do all this together. And so I'm going to need to make sure that I spend a lot of time with a lot of people, and I'm excited for that.
Well, I'm glad that you took the time to spend time with us here in the Studio Dive Cage on the Podcast Aquatic. Andy, thank you so much. I know that your schedule is extremely hectic, especially in these early days, but I certainly appreciate you taking the time to let us as a show get to know you. But me personally, I mean, this is the most time I've spent with you. I think prior to this, we've talked for about 2.5 minutes in my office. So I feel like I know you better, and I'm excited to see how things go moving forward.
Thank you for the time, Casey, and keep up the great Podcast Aquatic.
If you have an idea for a future episode of the Podcast Aquatic, please send it to us at podcast@tnaqua.org. If you have any questions for an expert here at the aquarium, and maybe even a question for Andy, go ahead and send it to the same address, and I'll forward it along. While you're online, go ahead and leave us a review or a rating. Those are both excellent free ways to support the show. In the meantime, until next time, remember that every drop matters.